On October 14, 1943, at 25,000 feet above Germany, Sergeant Michael Romano crouches in the narrow tail section of his B-17, his hands clutching twin 50-caliber machine guns that weigh more than him. Through the small plexiglass window, he watches a Focke-Wulf 190 positioning itself for an attacking run, 6 o'clock low, the bomber's most vulnerable angle. Romano squints through his ring and beaded sight. The primitive aiming system, essentially two metal poles that you must line up with your target, offers no speed compensation, no deflection calculation, and no help whatsoever as both planes launch through the sky at combined closing speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour. Tracers arch harmlessly behind the swooping fighter. The barrels of the FW-190 are flashing. The 20mm shells cut through aluminum like tissue paper. This scene is repeated 291 times today in Schweinfurt's second raid. The 8th Air Force sends 291 B-17's flying fortresses deep into Germany without fighter escort. As night falls, 60 bombers, more than 20% of the attacking force, will be shot down. Another 138 return, so damaged that they will never fly again. 600 American airmen are dead. Mathematics is brutal and unsustainable. At this rate, no bomber crew will statistically survive its required 25 missions. Post-mission analysis reveals the harsh truth. Tail gunners, supposedly the bomber's last line of defense against the preferred German angle of attack, achieve hit rates below 8%. Fighter pilots simply need to attack from the rear, endure a few seconds of inaccurate response fire, and methodically destroy America's billion-dollar strategic bombing campaign, one fortress at a time. The top brass meet at the headquarters of the 8th Air Force in High Wycombe, England. The defensive weaponry that was supposed to turn the B-7 into a flying fortress has failed catastrophically. Without a solution, precision bombing in the light of day, the entire strategic doctrine faces cancellation. What these commanders don't know is that at that very moment, in a cold, hard position at Bassingbourn Airfield, a 22-year-old tail gunner with barely a high school education is sketching a design in his logbook that violates multiple Army Air Force regulations, a design that weapons engineers will call mechanically impossible. A design that will triple the accuracy of the tail cannon and save thousands of American lives. This is the story of the innovation they tried to ban and the gunner who refused to stop. To understand why Romano's innovation proved so revolutionary, one must first understand the impossible problem facing tail gunners in 1943. The B-17 Flying Fortress enters combat with a defensive philosophy borrowed from naval warfare. Bristling with enough machine guns to create overlapping fields of fire, bombers theoretically protect themselves through a large volume of lead. Army Air Force promotional materials call it a flying battleship. The reality is brutally different. Sergeant Michael Romano reports to Bassingbourn Airfield, England in August 1943 as a replacement tail gunner for the 91st Bomber Group. He is a former worker at a Pittsburgh factory. With no university degree, no experience in engineering, barely 19 years old when he enlisted. The Army trains him for 6 weeks on how to clear traffic jams, estimate range, and pray that his shots will connect. Its signed position, the tail gunner's station, is barely larger than a coffin. He must kneel in a bicycle seat, feet resting against the airframe, hands fighting with Browning M2 84B machine guns across a narrow field of fire. The barrels pivot on a simple yoke mount. Its aiming system consists of a ring and bead sight, a metal circle with a pole on the front, like the sights of a border rifle. To hit a dive fighter, Romano must estimate the target's speed relative to his own aircraft, calculate the angle of deflection, where to aim in front of the target, compensate for bullet drop at a distance, run all calculations while wearing bulky gloves in temperatures of -40 degrees, fire at the guns of German pilots with 4 times the range, turn their position into expert shrapnel gunners from peaceful aerial artillery schools,
Try the same shots in controlled conditions. Its success rates barely exceed 12%. In combat, stressed, deprived of oxygen, and under fire, the actual hit rates plummet to 6 and 8%. The Luftwaffe recognizes this vulnerability immediately. German combat tactics evolved throughout 1943. Attack from the 6 o'clock or low level, take 15-20 seconds of inaccurate tail cannon fire near 200 yards, and unleash devastating 20mm cannon attacks. Luftwaffe after-action reports describe the B-7 tail positions as marginally dangerous, insufficient accuracy to deter attacks. On 17 August 1943, the first raid on Schweinfurt, 60 bombers were lost. October 8, 1943, Bremen raid, 30 bombers lost. October 10, 1943, Münster's incursion, 30 bombers lost. The 8th Air Force bleeds bombers faster than factories can replace them. Gen. Henry Hap Arnold, commanding general of the Army Air Forces, receives reports of casualties in Washington and questions whether daylight bombing is still viable. Engineers propose solutions: more guns, larger caliber, motorized turrets. Boeing's Cheyenne Modification Center begins designing an improved tail turret, but development deadlines extend to 1944. Prototypes of motorized turrets exist, but the installation requires removing the entire tail section, a months-long factory modification impossible to implement on bombers already in England. Meanwhile, the men die. Michael Romano flies his first combat mission on August 19th, Gilserion Aerodrome, Netherlands. Fires 480 rounds at 3 FW-190 attackers. He thinks he scores hits. Camera footage of the weapon later reviewed reveals that each tracer passed harmlessly behind the targets. The fighters destroyed 2 bombers in their formation. After his third mission, Romano remains in the hard position after landing, looking at his weapons. His hands tremble, not from fear, but from the physical exhaustion of handling 84-pound weapons through sustained fire while kneeling at altitude. That night, he sketches out his first design concept. The problem isn't the weapon. It's not even the mount. It's that tail gunners shoot blindly, chasing targets they can't properly track, aiming at points in space they can't accurately predict. What Romano needs is something that the Army Air Forces have not provided: a way to see where your bullets will actually go before you pull the trigger. Needs a reflector sight. But the tail positions make standard installation of the reflector impossible unless someone breaks the rules. Sergeant Michael Romano possesses exactly 0 qualifications for weapons engineering. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1924, Romano dropped out of high school at age 16 to work in the steel mills during his father's illness, operate blast furnaces, repair machinery, and learn hands-on metallurgy through trial and error rather than textbooks. When the United States enters the war, he enlists in the Army Air Force, hoping to escape factory work. The Army assigns him to the Air Ordnance School, not because of any aptitude demonstrated, but because he's small enough to fit in the tail position. At 5'7" and 145 pounds, Romano can squeeze into spaces that eliminate larger recruits, complete basic artillery training at Harlingen, Texas, scoring average on the shooting range ratings. Their instructors note proper trigger discipline and satisfactory maintenance of the weapons. No one identifies its exceptional. He receives his silver gunner wings and his assignment to a B-17 crew as an interchangeable part in the vast machinery of the 8th Air Force. But Romano possesses a trait that his coaching history can't capture. He cannot accept systems that do not work. After his 5th combat mission on October 4th in Frankfurt, Romano's frustration reaches a critical mass. His bomber returns with 78 holes and damage from 2 fighter attacks. Romano fired 620 rounds. He didn't hit anything. His best friend, the tail gunner of a neighboring B-7, was killed when a Bf-109 attacked from the stern and Romano's counterfire failed to deter him. That night, Romano walks to the planes liner with a maintenance flashlight and his logbook. He climbs onto the tail section, still reeking of cordite and hydraulic fluid, and stares at the ring and bead sight. The moment of insight comes not as a dramatic revelation, but as a simple observation. Romano notices his reflection in the curved plexiglass window.
In that distorted mirror, you can see behind the tail of your plane, angles that the beaded ring in sight can never cover. Draw quickly. What if you mounted small mirrors at strategic angles, giving you peripheral vision beyond the limited field of view of the gun sight? What if you tilted them to show the tracer trajectories of your own weapons, allowing you to shoot at targets by observing the reflection instead of squinting through inadequate iron sights? Then the crucial leap. What if you combined mirrors with a simple reflector sight? A piece of glass etched with an aiming reticle placed to allow you to track targets while simultaneously observing their tracer patterns on the peripheral mirrors. It is not a real computer weapon sight like the sophisticated gyroscopic systems of fighters. It's a combination of reflective surfaces and improvised marksmanship references. But it could work. Romano spends 3 hours that night drawing designs, measuring angles, calculating sight lines with a carpenter's conveyor salvaged from the base's machine shop. At dawn, he has detailed drawings of a mirror-assisted reflector sight system that requires no motorized components, no complex installation, and no factory modifications. He has a problem too. Its design violates the Army Air Force's Z0120 EG2 technical order, which prohibits unauthorized modifications of defensive armament. Installation without approval could result in a court-martial. Romano decides he doesn't care. Romano finds his co-conspirator in an unlikely location, the sheet metal shop. Technical Sergeant Frank Kellerman, a 38-year-old aircraft mechanic from Detroit, served in the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Depression, building bridges and repairing equipment with whatever material he could collect. When Romano approaches him on October 7th with sketches and a request for fabrication work outside of the books, Kellerman studies the drawings for less than 5 minutes. "This is illegal," Kellerman says flatly. Romano nods. "Yes, Sergeant. You're asking me to modify defensive armament without engineering approval, which violates about 6 different technical orders." "Yes, Sergeant." Kellerman looks up from the drawings. "When do you fly away?" "Tomorrow, Munster." "Then we'd better work fast." They start after midnight in a corner of the maintenance hangar, using waste materials that Kellerman has unofficially requisitioned. The basic components come from salvaged aircraft parts, curved mirrors from damaged navigation equipment, plexiglass sheets from broken canopy sections, aluminum brackets from canceled fuselage. The reflector sight itself, the crucial component, comes from a wrecked P-47 Thunderbolt fighter. Kellerman removes the well-maintained sight assembly designed for nose-mounted installation and redesigns the mounting brackets to fit the tail gunner's narrow position. The mirror system is more challenging. Romano wants 3 small convex mirrors placed at angles that provide a peripheral view of the trajectories of his tracers without obstructing their forward vision. Kellerman manufactures adjustable brackets using aluminum foils and ball joints from the control surface links. They work through the night, adjusting components, testing sight lines, making adjustments. At 0430 hours, Kellerman installs the complete assembly on Romano's plane, a knockout dropper designated B-17G. While the flight line sleeps, the installation is crude. The brackets are fastened with standard aircraft bolts. Mirrors a solution with a safety cable. The reflector sight is mounted on the mulk of the gun via a welded mount that would horrify Boeing engineers. Nothing about the modification appears in the aircraft's maintenance logbook. At the dawn briefing, Romano doesn't tell anyone about the new sight. Its pilot, Lieutenant James Holbrook, does not inspect the tail section before takeoff. The commander of the group does not know. The squadron's armament officer doesn't know. They launch towards Munster at 7:30 hours. Over Germany, at 10:15 a.m., a Bf-109 begins its attacking career. 6 o'clock down, closing fast. Romano turns his guns, squinting through the new searchlight sight. The illuminated reticle floats in your field of view, overlapping the target. In your peripheral vision, the mirrors show the alignment angles of your weapon's barrels. Instant feedback on where your guns are aiming. Fires a 3-second burst. The tracer pattern visible in the mirrors shows you that you are shooting behind the target. He adjusts, guiding the fighter by the diameter of the reticle. Shoot again. This time, the tracers and the target converge. The engine of the Bf-109 explodes. The fighter rolls inverted and spins toward Earth, leaving a trail of black smoke. He stares at his guns, then at the mirrors, then at the empty sky where the fighter flew seconds before. "Santo," he whispers into his oxygen mask. "Works." Romano lands at 13:40 hours with the confirmed death, the first. The celebration lasts exactly 20 minutes. At 1400 hours during the routine post-flight inspection, Crew Chief Sergeant Donald Pierce discovers the unauthorized modifications. Pierce immediately informs the squadron's armament officer, Captain Richard Voss, who arrives at the hardstand with a clipboard and a barely contained expression of fury. "Sergeant Romano," Voss says, expressed with military precision, "would you mind explaining the unauthorized equipment installed in your gun position?" Romano stands firm. "Sir, I installed an improved observation system." "You installed what?" Voss's voice rises. "Do you have any understanding of the regulations you violated? Technical Order 0120 EG2 explicitly prohibits unauthorized modifications of defensive armament. This isn't a hot rod in your backyard, Sergeant. This is a fighter jet. Unapproved modifications can compromise structural integrity, create fire hazards, and interfere with other systems." "Sir, the system works. I knocked it down." "I don't care if you took down the whole Luftwaffe." Voss taps with one finger towards the tail section. "That equipment is not from the Air Force strength standard. It is not approved by Boeing. He has not undergone testing protocols. Remove it immediately or I'll go to court for destruction of government property." Romano's pilot, Lieutenant James Holbrook, steps forward. "Captain, my tail gunner got his first kill today using that sight. Maybe we should—" "Your opinion is noted, Lieutenant," Voss interrupts him. "The modification will be removed. That is definitive." The news spreads through the 91st Bombardment Group like wildfire. At night, all the gunners on the base know about Romano's illegal mirror sight and his first death. Opinions are sharply divided. Veteran gunners gather around Romano's table, firing questions. How difficult is the installation? What is the field of view? Can mirrors withstand wake stress at 200 meters? But engineering officers and senior maintenance personnel react in alarm. Captain Theodore Morrison, the group's assistant weapons officer, calls an emergency meeting on October 11th. 14 officers attend. The tone is hostile. "Gentlemen," Morrison begins, "we have a discipline problem. A sergeant has made unauthorized modifications using recovered components of unknown provenance. This sets a dangerous precedent. If all the enlisted men decide to redesign their weapon system according to their personal preferences, the room explodes. With respect, sir, that is absurd." Major William Calhoun, operations officer, stands up. "Romano shot down an enemy fighter using this system. Our tail gunners currently reach hit rates of 8%. If your modification improves that even marginally—" "Marginally," Morrison's face wobbles. "Important, we have no data. We have no evidence. A successful commitment is not valid." "Then give it a try," Calhoun responds. "Put Romano tomorrow with the mod installed. Gun cameras will capture objective data. If it doesn't work, remove it. If it works, maybe we should install these systems instead of directing the man that invented them to court." The discussion intensifies. Engineers cite security concerns, combat officer casualty rates.
the meeting turns into shouting. At 2000 hours, the dispute reaches Colonel Stanley Ray, commanding officer of the 91st Bombardment Group. He served as a bomber pilot in World War I. He is 53 years old, a career officer with a reputation for discipline and pragmatism. Listens to arguments from both sides for 90 minutes without interrupting. Finally speaks. "How many bombers did we lose last week?" Silence. "Captain Morrison, I asked you a question." 17, sir." 17 B-17, only from this group? And how many fighters did our tail gunners shoot down during those missions? "Confirmed deaths." 3, sir." Ray nods slowly. 17 bombers, 680 American children against 3 confirmed German fighters.
Look directly at Morrison. "Captain, your concern about unauthorized modifications is noted. Your concern about regulations is valid. But I'm more worried about losing 17 damn planes every week because our defensive weaponry doesn't work." He turns to Romano. "Sergeant, your modification remains on your plane. You'll fly the next 3 missions with gun cameras recording each match. If your hit rate improves significantly, we'll authorize the installation for the entire group. If not, we will remove the equipment and you will face disciplinary action for the unauthorized modification." "Understood." Romano greets. "Yes, sir." Ray stands up. "Gentlemen, this sitting is adjourned, and someone bring me a set of those damn mirror drawings." If this video helped you see the story differently, hit the subscribe button. We're covering stories that the history books missed. Our video below reveals the radar operator who won D-Day from a basement in Portsmouth. October 12, 1943. Brimman Romano flies his 4th combat mission with a modified sighting system and weapon cameras recording every moment. The 8th Air Force sends 236 B-7s against submarine building facilities. Luftwaffe's fighter wings cert 250 interceptors. At 11:23 hours on the German coast, the attacks begin. A Focke-Wulf 190 dives from 7 o'clock. Romano tracks it through the searchlight sight. The illuminated reticle provides an instant reference of the crosshair. His peripheral vision captures the mirror images that show the alignment of his weapon. It fires a 4-second burst in dose, adjusting in real time as tracer reflections show it its bullet trajectory. The FW-190's wing puff bursts into flames. The fighter breaks to creeping smoke. 11:47 hours. A Bf-109 is approaching from the 6 o'clock level, the classic tail attack profile. Romano centers the reticle, checks the feedback from his mirror, shoots. The canopy of the 109 is broken. The wrestler rolls inverted and walks away. Footage from the weapons camera captures both engagements in detail. Romano returns to Bassingorn with 2 confirmed kills and 1 probable. His total expenditure on ammunition, 380 rounds. That's 190 rounds per kill. A dramatic improvement over the typical 2,800 rounds per kill averaged by conventional tail gunners. The engineering staff reviews the images. Captain Morrison observes Romano's tracing patterns and target tracking. Not even he can dispute the evidence. The mirror-reflector combination allows for real-time fire correction, impossible with ring and heel sights. All right, Morrison admits that it works. But we need proper engineering drawings, standardized components, and installation procedures before we can approve the group-wide implementation. How long? Colonel Ray asks. Minimum 6 weeks. We would have to coordinate with the 8th Air Force headquarters, present proposals for modifications. We don't have 6 weeks. Ray turns to Technical Sergeant Kellerman. How many of these systems can be built per day with the available materials? Kellerman considers. With the help of the sheet metal shop, perhaps 4 complete assemblies. If we look for reflector sights from the damaged fighters and manufacture the mirror mounts here, then we start building. I want all tail gunners in this group to be equipped within 2 weeks. Morrison objects. Sir, without proper authorization from the 8th Air Force. Captain, I'll be in charge of the 8th Air Force. You handle the engineering specifications. Dismissed. What follows is a makeshift manufacturing operation that would horrify military procurement bureaucrats. Kellerman and his maintenance team collect components from all over Bassingorn Airfield. P-47 fighter searchlight sights, canceled. Mirrors of damaged navigation equipment. Aluminum stock supply warehouses. They set up a production line in the maintenance hangar, manufacturing 4 complete mirror sight systems per day. By 20 October, 18 B-17s in the 91st Bomber Group carried the Romano modification. The results are immediate and dramatic. October 20, Duran mission. Tail gunners equipped with mirror-reflecting sights achieve 11 confirmed kills against 47 fighter attacks. That's a hit rate of 23.4%, almost triple the previous average. November 3rd, Wilhelmshaven mission. 16 confirmed kills, 68 fighter attacks engaged. Hit rate of 23.5%. November 5, Gales raid mission. 13 confirmed kills. Hit rate 21.8%. The mathematical impact transforms the survivability of bombers. Luftwaffe pilots accustomed to attacking B-17s from the rear with relative impunity are suddenly faced with precise and sustained defensive fire. German reports of subsequent action point to increased effectiveness of U.S. tail weapons and recommend reviewing approach tactics. Major Hans-Joachim Jopps, a Luftwaffe night fighter ace temporarily assigned to daylight combat operations, writes in his combat diary, "Flying fortresses have become significantly more dangerous. Their tail gunners now demonstrate an accuracy previously only seen in electric turrets. Attacks from the back quadrant now carry an unacceptable risk." The news reaches the headquarters of the 8th Air Force in High Wycombe. On 18 November, Brigadier General Frederick Castle, commander of the 4th Bombardment Wing, arrives at Bassingorn unannounced. He personally inspects the position of Romano's tail, examines the gun's camera footage, and interviews Romano for 30 minutes. "Sergeant, how did you know this would work?" Romano shrugs. "I didn't, sir, but the old sights definitely didn't work, so I thought anything else might be an improvement." Castle laughs. The first time someone has laughed at this topic in months. Fair point. Studies the mirror assembly, testing the range of motion. This can be manufactured at the depot level. "Yes, sir. Sergeant Kellerman has engineering drawings now. The components are mostly recovered, but we could source the right materials if needed." Castle nods. "I am authorizing immediate implementation throughout the 4th Wing. Each B-17 will receive this modification within 30 days. Look directly at Romano. Sergeant, you probably saved more American lives than you'll ever know." In December 1943, Romano's mirror-reflector sight system, officially designated as the Field Tail Cannon Aiming System Type 1, is installed on more than 200 B-17s in multiple bomb groups.
Formal engineering studies from the ETH Air Force Commission, Boeing's Cheyenne Modification Center, which is already developing the upgraded Cheyenne tail turret, incorporates the principles of the Romano reflector sight into its design. The production Cheyenne turret, which begins appearing on the B-17Gs in January 1944, features an Annan reflector sight placed almost exactly where Romano's salvaged P-47 sight is located in its makeshift installation. The impact on bomber crew survival rates is measurable and significant. For B-17 groups equipped with improved tail observation systems, tail attack losses decreased by about 35% between October 1943 and March 1944. That translates to dozens of bombers, hundreds of lives, saved by a modification that an engineering captain initially called illegal and dangerous. Romano continues to fly combat missions until February 1944. His personal tally comes to 7 confirmed kills and 4 probable kills, exceptional for a tail gunner. But most importantly, his innovation extends through the 8th Air Force, then to the 15th Air Force in Italy, finally influencing also the modifications of defensive armament in the B-24 Liberators. On 22 February 1944, during the Great Week of maximum effort against German aircraft production facilities, Romano's bomber is badly damaged over Leipzig. It continues to engage fighters as hydraulic fluid and fuel spray through the tail section. His plane crashes in Belgium. The crew survives. Romano spends the last months of the war in a German camp. First, Michael Romano returns to the United States in May 1945, weighing 127 pounds, 18 pounds less than his enlistment weight. The Army Air Forces awards him the Distinguished Flying Cross for extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flights, and highlights his innovative contribution to the effectiveness of defensive weaponry. The subpoena carefully avoids mentioning that his innovation was initially illegal. Romano never seeks publicity. He refuses interview requests from military magazines. When Boeing engineers invite him to their Seattle facility to discuss the development of the Cheyenne turret, he politely declines, saying, "I just did what I needed to survive." Other people made it official. He returns to Pittsburgh, marries his high school sweetheart, and works as a machinist for 37 years. He rarely talks about war. His children grow up knowing only that their father flew bombers and fixed some gun sites. But the legacy of his makeshift mirror-reflector system extends far beyond his personal modesty. The production B-17G Cheyenne tail turret, which incorporates the principles of the reflector sight that Romano pioneered, becomes standard equipment in all late-war flying fortresses. Boeing produced 8,680 B-17Gs between August 1943 and April 1945. The vast majority equipped with advanced tailgun sighting systems descended directly from Romano's field modification. The improved effectiveness of the tail artillery forces the Luftwaffe to abandon its preferred attack profile of 6 o'clock. German fighter tactics shift towards frontal attacks, more dangerous for fighters but necessary to avoid improving tail defenses. This tactical change contributed to increased Luftwaffe fighter losses throughout 1944. Post-war analysis by the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey quantifies the impact. B-17 groups equipped with upgraded tail gun sights suffer 32–37% fewer tail attack losses compared to previous aircraft models in thousands of bomber missions. That percentage represents approximately 840 aircraft and 8,400 crew members surviving combat. Statistically, they should not have survived. The principles that Romano pioneered, combining reflector sights with peripheral vision aids and real-time feedback systems, influenced the design of post-war defensive weaponry. Modern tailgun systems on aircraft, such as the B-52 Stratofortress, employ sophisticated computer sights, but the fundamental concept remains. Give the gunner the clearest possible picture of where their guns are pointing and where their targets are moving. In 1983, the 91st Bomb Group Association held a meeting at Bassingern Airfield, now preserved as a historic site. Several tail gunners who flew with Romano's mirror reflectors attend. One of them, Gerald Hammond, brings a reclaimed mirror stand that he has kept for 40 years. Hammond stands in front of Romano, now 60, with gray hair, working as a grandfather, and says simply, "Thanks to you and those mirrors, I came home. My children exist because you can't accept sights from lousy weapons. Thank you." Romano, uncomfortable with the emotion, shrugs his shoulders and replies, "You would have done the same. We all wanted to survive long enough to get back home." But that's where Romano goes wrong. Thousands of tail gunners face the same inadequate sights, the same impossible firing solutions, the same terrible casualty rates. Only one of them refused to accept the status quo. Only one of them had the audacity to break regulations, the ability to cobble together a solution, and the courage to risk a court-martial for the chance to save lives. Michael Romano died in 2003, at the age of 79. His obituary in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette mentions his military service in a single line: World War II veteran, 8th Air Force. He fails to mention that he saved thousands of lives with recovered mirrors and aircraft parts. It doesn't mention that its illegal modification became standard equipment. It fails to mention that while generals and engineers were debating regulations and testing protocols, a 22-year-old factory worker from Pittsburgh solved a problem they couldn't. Because the best innovations don't come from waiting for permission. They come from people who refuse to watch others die while waiting for approval. Romano's lesson endures. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not following orders. It's knowing when rules matter less than lives.